Hey aspiringpreneur, you asked me the other day if you could go on a trip. Let me tell you about the craziest business trip I've ever gone on, and let me give you a few tips to help you along the way. Hi, I'm Lyle. I'm talking to aspiringpreneurs today because an aspiringpreneur is somebody who wants to make a difference in the world. That's the kind of person I like to be around. So the other day we were riding in the car and you asked me, hey, I want to go on this trip. And I asked you a simple question. I said, how can you go on this trip? Do you know what you did? Think back. You began to list all the reasons you couldn't go on the trip. You listed your bills. You listed the situations in your life. You listed all the jobs you have to do. You listed all the things that keep you away from doing what you want to do. But I want to ask you that question again. How can you go on that trip? Let me tell you a quick little story about when I was in my 20s and I wanted to go on my first ever business trip. So let me paint a picture real quick. I was in my 20s. I was working a full-time job, going to school full-time, and working a second job. So I literally would get up at 5 o'clock in the morning for my first shift to start at 5, work till 8, go to school from 8 to 12, and then 2 o'clock to 10 o'clock I'd be working another job. That was what my life looked like. Do you get a picture of that? Very, very busy, very harsh. I decided that wasn't good enough for me, so I wanted to start my own business. So I got involved with a group of people who were doing business together. I thought, well, if they're doing business together, this is something interesting, let me see if I can do it. So in the little bit of time I had left, on the one day a week I had, I would go to the meetings, I would learn a little bit more, and they said, hey, we have a business trip coming along, you should come. I thought to myself, that's great. Got to take days off, I can't go to school, and I started listing all the reasons I couldn't do what I thought I wanted to do. But then, in the middle of one of the meetings, some guy said, hey, instead of thinking about all the reasons you can't do it, simply ask yourself, how can I do it? Begin to have your brain think about possibilities, because your brain is a very creative tool. It's going to create possibilities or it's going to create excuses. Which one do you want to live in? Do you want to live in possibilities or do you want to live in excuses? Think about that for a minute. So I listened. I learned it from that moment and I said, you know what? What can I do? So I sold a few things. I got some sales in the business a little bit. I got things rolling a little bit. Got just enough money to go on this trip. Now, provided I couldn't take a flight, I had to actually drive with somebody so I could chip in for their gas. That made things a little bit more expensive, less expensive for me. And so we got in the car. It was actually a giant white van, those big old vans, you know, that has lay down sleeper type things, you know, 1980s version van. Conversion vans, I think they call them? I don't know. Anyway, we got in the van and we started down the road, and from Texas to Washington, D.C. is where we were going. Washington, D.C. is where the trip was going to be. Now, that doesn't sound exotic, but it might as well have been Bora Bora or something exotic, you know, Dubai or something, because I was broke, and even the thought of going that far scared me. But I did it. I jumped in the vehicle. We started going, and about midway through Alabama, it was about 1 o'clock in the morning. Here's what the crazy part comes in. We decided to stop for a restroom break. Now, the only two people there were Miss Taylor, I'm gonna call her Miss Taylor, just out of respect, and me. We were the only two awake in the entire van. Everybody else was crashed in the back. So we stopped in the middle of small town Alabama, in the middle of nothing but trees, and there was one little gas station. We stopped and we went to the restroom. Now, we had to take turns going to the restroom because there was only one restroom. Kind of a weird thing, but I guess that's what happens in Alabama. Sorry if you're from Alabama, I'm not being offensive. That's just what happened to me. So we get back in the car, no worries about it. Get going down the road, and within 20 minutes, we saw some flashing lights. We didn't think anything about it. Next thing you know, we had 4 flashing lights all around us and one behind us. Her husband jumped up. What the heck are you doing, Miss Taylor? He's just all right. They pull us over. They had our entire van surrounded, pulled our entire van over, and I was the first one to ask to get out of the vehicle. Now, I'm in my 20s. I've never been arrested. This is the freakiest thing that's ever happened to me. So I get out and they tell me to put my hands on my head, and I look over this way, and right here is a double-barrel shotgun pointing towards my face. They start emptying the car, and here's where it gets kind of weird. So one of the things that we sold was some soap, some cleaner type stuff, and she took samples out and put them in little baggies. So you can imagine these little white baggies full of powdered stuff. And so the cops are going through and they're pulling this stuff out. They're calling drug dogs in. I've got a shotgun to my head, and everybody else is piling out of the vehicle, half asleep, not knowing what's going on, with us surrounded by cops in the middle of Alabama. You get a picture of this story? It's crazy stuff. Long story short, there was some drug runners in the area, and their last name was Taylor, just like our driver, just like the person who owned the van. So when they run the tags in the van, because they saw me, I have long hair, and I was in the middle of Alabama, they're like, white guy with long hair, he's got to be doing drugs, right? Anyway, That's what happened in real life. That was the greatest experience, the most craziest experience I've ever had. But let me tell you the rest of the story. We finally got away from there. We got past the situation. Everybody's awake the rest of the night, I assure you. And we go to Washington, D.C., and it may not seem like a big thing. There were speakers and there was events and we had all kinds of fun stuff. But the one thing I got to do that I'd never even thought I could do it before was I got to go on a river cruise down the Potomac River. Now that may not sound like a big deal to you, but I came from a family that didn't have a lot of money. They weren't entrepreneurs. They did not know how to make extra money. They didn't know how to make things. So good experience, big experiences was a huge thing for me. And I got to go on this thing. And the first time in my life, I realized the possibilities. I could live like this. This could be a life I could be around. I could be around bigger people that think bigger than me. And I could begin to think bigger. When you're around other people who think bigger, you allow yourself to think bigger. Okay, so when an opportunity arises, when a possibility arises, I want you to quit asking and making up all the excuses why you can't do it. I want you to begin to think about the possibilities. Let your creative mind engage. How can I do this? How can I make this change in my life? How can I do this? Now, if we're here on YouTube, you're watching this video on YouTube, leave a comment below if you've ever had a situation like that. Not the drug running, because that's a weird thing. But if you've ever had a situation where your mindset changed to how you can do something. I'd love to hear some stories. Or on the other side of it, if you're an aspiringpreneur, you're like, this is a great story, I don't even know where to begin. Ask questions. The more you get involved in this channel, the better it's going to be. Being an aspiringpreneur is not about making a ton of money or doing everything perfect. Being an aspiringpreneur means looking for opportunities and creating opportunities. It's about making life better and helping others' lives be better as well. I'm Lyle, the Aspiringpreneur Coach. Reach out if you have any questions. I look forward to seeing you. And if you get a chance, go to aspiringpreneur.com. We're working on a website to help you guys find courses and resources that'll help you grow as an aspiringpreneur. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. There's gonna be lots of cool videos like this coming up soon. Talk to you later. Bye.